Party Llama. Party Llama makes a party, Party Llama brings a party, Party Llama is the party, Party Llama, Llama party. Do the Party Llama. Party Llama makes a party, Party Llama brings a party, Party Llama is the party, Party Llama, Llama party. Strobe lights, cool hats, disco ball, ice skates if applicable, sunglasses inside, pizza delivered to your door, Capri Sun, bags of chips, variety of assorted dips. Do the Party Llama. Do the Party Llama. Do the Party Llama. Stop, llama time. Party Llama knows how to party.
Party llama, party llama, party llama makes the party, party llama makes the... Oh, I don't have enough room. What's up, guys? How is it going? Welcome to the live stream. It's here. I'm here. You're here. We're all here. Welcome to the party llama. Yeah, thank you, Nathan. This was a bop. This 100% was a bop. Party llama makes the party go. Party llama, llama, party. Yo! I know. That was a really random... very random countdown, but I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm glad I'm here. How are you guys doing? Let me know in the chat. How are you guys doing tonight? How are you guys doing this week? You guys have been going at online school for a while now, so let me know how that's going. I don't know about you, but it was 75 degrees on Saturday, and boy, was it awesome. Super, super awesome. What's up, Soleil? What's up, Ari? How's it going, everybody? It was super awesome. The sucky part is it's going to snow on Mother's Day. Surprise. It's Mother's Day on Sunday, so if you haven't done anything yet, here's your reminder. Go and do something for Mother's Day. Don't forget. Your mom will not be happy if you forget. So... that's coming up. I hope you guys did. We had our Fortnite tournament last Friday. Fortnite tournament. Congratulations to who won? Sean and Tavion. Those guys are pretty good. They're like really good. Apparently one of them is kind of pro. So yeah, sorry about that. But if you played, thanks so much for joining us. We are going to plan another one. We're going to plan another Fortnite tournament here. Probably not like too soon, but we're definitely going to have another one in the next few whiles because why not? Play Fortnite with good people and win prizes. So we're gonna play some Fortnite here coming up. in a little bit. But the only thing we got coming up, we have like nothing really like big announcements coming up other than just a few things. One is we're going to do some more gaming with Ty tomorrow. So we're going to bring it back. We're going to be playing at 12 o'clock. We're going to play some, probably, let's be honest, we're going to probably play some Fortnite. We're going to play some Fortnite, probably custom lobbies or, creative mode. Been having a lot of fun with you guys. But feel free, you can invite your friends to do or to come play creative with us. It's going to be a lot of fun as long as they're not a punk, they don't swear, and they're not better than me, then they can come play because I don't want to be shown up by a middle schooler. So that's what's coming up. We have gaming with Ty tomorrow. The other thing that we wanted to let you guys know about is that in this timeline, in this time period, what's the word I'm looking for? Soon, you boys, me, Mitch, and Tim are going to start planning this summer. I'm super pumped to plan this summer. And we're going to talk about what we're going to be doing this summer. But for right now, we at least have 2 more weeks of I'm that good at darts. That is not false. Where is it? Right. That is true. That is my throw. I'm very good. Disregard. See, you can't see all the holes that are on the walls over there. Yeah. I'm that good at darts. But yeah. So summer, anyways. Sorry, I got distracted. Squirrel. We are going to be planning summer and we're pretty pumped. We've got some pretty fun ideas, but we're going to nail them down before we let you guys know. But we're going to keep going the next couple Wednesday nights before we make a decision on what we're going to be doing for the summer. How many of you guys are ready to be in person? I'm so ready to be in person. I'm so ready. Until we get into that, which I don't know when that will be. I don't know. I don't know. But for right now, we're going to keep going with what we're doing. So we have that coming up. Talked about the Fortnite tournament last week. Talking about playing tomorrow. Party llama. I can't get party llama out of my head. So anyways, I don't know what else to tell you guys. But that's what we guys got coming up. Other than that, that's about it. What do you guys want to talk about tonight? I don't really know what we're going to talk about. What should we talk? I'm just kidding. We do have a plan, but I want to make sure that you guys are doing good. So let me know in the chat that you guys are doing great. Give me a thumbs up. If you're doing great, give me a thumbs down. Don't give me a thumbs down because that's lame. But one thing I want you guys to do is this. One thing that'll help us a ton if you haven't already is 2 things. I'm going to be your YouTuber for tonight. And it's this. Go subscribe to the channel. So if the more subscribers we have, the better we can get at getting content out. The more we can reach out to you guys. And then there's a second thing that you can do. You can go and you can hit the little bell that's down in one of these corners. And we are, if you hit the bell, that means that you'll get a notification every time that we go live. Thank you so much, Ninja Teens TV. I don't know who you are, but thank you thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate it. Anyways, that just helps us. And then every time we do go live, you guys get a notification that we're going live. So whether we're doing Wednesday nights or we're doing Sunday nights, or maybe we're doing something else, hint, 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 you guys will get notifications. So anyways, that is what we will be doing coming up. That's all I got. We're going to go into our message tonight. We're in week 4 of our series called Atypical. And so we want to make sure we're going to finish it up. My boy Tim is bringing the word tonight. And so I'm super pumped for him. One announcement for you guys, and I'm very bummed to say this, but I'm also very excited because he has been awesome this year, is that Tim only has a couple more weeks left of his internship. He has been interning for us. He's been an intern for student ministry the last year, and he has been super awesome. So I want to make sure that you guys give him some love in the chat. Go ahead and send a bunch of heart emojis. Put Tim's name in the chat. Tell him you love him. Let him know that you're here. I'm super pumped for everything God has for him moving forward. But he only has 2 more weeks, and then he's done, which is crazy. It's been so awesome. So, Tim, I love you, man. Thank you so much for being a part of our team this last year. And, yeah, what about SGL Cribs? Great question. Tell your SGLs, tell your small group leaders that they need to film their small group leader cribs episodes. Once they record, then we'll have more to watch. Boom, mic drop. Except I can't drop this mic because it's expensive. So anyways, outside of that, that's all I got. So Tim's bringing the word tonight for our last week of Atypical. So make sure you guys check it out, and then we'll go into small groups later. Sound good? Let's go into week 4 of our series, Atypical.
Hey guys, I hope you're doing well on this quarantine. It's been so long since we've been together and I can't wait to see you guys again. We can all hang out. I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk to you again. It's been a long time since I've been able to do that, but I really hope we can all be together soon, and I hope that God has been teaching you about himself throughout this quarantine, that he's been drawing near to you and showing you things that maybe you didn't know before. That being said, I'm going to pray for us really quick and jump right in. So would you pray with me? God, thank you so much for giving us your word. God, we have so many thoughts and I have so many ideas that I might want to share with people or tell people that I think are good and might be helpful. But God, ultimately, I don't know that. But I do know that your word is true. God, that your word is always useful and that it points us to Jesus, God, which is the ultimate direction that we need to go in life. And so I thank you so much for that, and I pray that you would make your word clear to us, that we would understand it and obey it, God, and ultimately that we would seek after Jesus and to be more like him. Be with us tonight. Be with all these students. God, give them peace and hope for the future and the return of Jesus back to earth, the King of the world. God, I pray everything in his name. Amen. Okay, so we've been talking about families in this series. Big families in the Bible, but also our own too. And in all of these stories, there's been one family member who has messed up big time. These stories have included things like lies, deceit, disagreements, jealousy, selfishness, and even murder. Those sound like some pretty extreme situations, but I think when we really look at it, they're not that far off from our own families as we think. You see, every family has opportunities to both forgive and to be forgiven. Our families are made of imperfect people, and so they have imperfect situations. See, in a typical family, when somebody gets hurt, they respond with bitterness or anger or revenge. But in an atypical family, like the ones we've been talking about, we can try and respond differently by pursuing forgiveness. So all throughout this series, we've talked about how God can use any family to do atypical things in this world. But how does that happen? That's what we're going to try and talk about more tonight and try and answer throughout this series. I want to tell you a story about forgiveness that happened to me in the past. Back when I was in high school. So when I was a junior in high school, I started playing varsity basketball, and that was a lot of fun and really important to me. But one day, my siblings and I were all hanging out in the living room, and for some reason, I was looking across the room at my brother, and I thought it would be a good idea to pretend to pick my nose and like I was going to wipe it on him. So I got my finger crouched over and pretended to pick my nose, and he was watching the whole thing, and I started to walk towards him, and when I stuck out my finger, he karate kicked it. Next thing I know, I'm in the other room and my finger's all swollen, and then the next day I go to the hospital and find out I have a broken finger. So I had to put a cast on, I had to stop playing basketball, and I was kind of upset. But when I thought back to the beginning of this whole situation, I realized that I had provoked my brother to be mad at me, and I had done a dumb thing by pretending to pick my nose and wipe it on him. And I think him seeing me having to go to the hospital made him realize that that kick really did hurt. And after that, we were able to reconcile and forgive each other and come back together again. See, at some point, we're all going to need to forgive or be forgiven by our families. Sometimes that's easy, but at other times, it can be more difficult, especially when a deep hurt is involved. In a typical family, when those deep hurts happen, they might go unresolved and they might end up in bitterness and broken relationships. But in an atypical family, they know that their relationships with their family is way too valuable to give up over hurts and hard things. So speaking of atypical families, so far in the series, we've talked about Adam and Eve. We talked later about their descendant Abraham, and then we talked about Abraham's grandchildren, Jacob and Esau. Today, I want to introduce you to a new part of that family tree, a new part of that line, and that is Joseph and his brothers. Joseph and his brothers are the sons of Jacob, who is the grandson of Abraham. And I kind of want to tell you a little bit about their story and their interactions with each other. So let me give you a quick recap of Joseph's story, and then we'll kind of dive into their relationships together. So Joseph was the second youngest son of Jacob, who was renamed Israel by God. So there was 12 sons, 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph was the second youngest. He was also the favorite. See, Jacob was an old guy when he had Joseph, and so he was like the son of his old age, and he was so thankful to God for him, and he became his favorite child. Jacob made Joseph this fancy, expensive coat with many colors in it, and his brothers got jealous of him. And then, to make things worse, Joseph ended up having these dreams that both his brothers and his parents would all bow down to him. His brothers continued to hate him even more after that. So then, one day, his brothers were out in a field, and they wanted to kill Joseph. And when he came out, they finally realized they shouldn't kill him, but instead they ripped off his coat and dipped it in blood to fake his death. Then they threw him in a pit, and when some slave traders walked by, they sold him into slavery. Joseph ended up in Egypt, and while in Egypt, he was gaining some reputation and a better reputation among the Egyptian leaders. And then he got thrown into jail for something he didn't do. So everything's going wrong so far. But then the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, finds out that Joseph can interpret dreams. So he ends up interpreting this dream that shows that there's going to be a famine in the land of Egypt. And he ends up saving a whole bunch of people, the whole land of Egypt from the famine, and including all the lands that surround Egypt. One of those lands included all of Joseph's brothers and his father Jacob. And so they all came to Egypt not knowing that Joseph was now the second in command of all of Egypt. And when Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, he forgives them. That's an amazing story of forgiveness to me, and that's kind of the big picture of what happens with Joseph and his brothers. But now, I kind of want to show you what their relationships were like. So let's look at Genesis chapter 37, starting in verse 1. Here's what it says. Jacob lived in the land of his father's sojournings in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons, because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Hear this dream that I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you? And his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. So here's the family dynamics we have. We have Joseph, who's the second youngest, being the favorite son, chosen by his father, and then his father makes this fancy, colorful coat for him that signifies his favorite status. To add to the matter, Joseph begins to have these dreams that the whole family is going to bow down to him, and so his brothers, who were already jealous, hate him even more. I don't know about you, but those don't sound like the most ideal family dynamics to me. I'm going to skip farther ahead in the chapter, and I want to read a little bit about what his brothers end up doing to Joseph. So this is still in Genesis chapter 37, verse 18. It says, They saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. They said to one another, Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what becomes of his dreams. But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, Let us not take his life. And Reuben said to them, Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand to restore him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. I'm going to skip farther down to verse 26. It says, Then Judah said to his brothers, What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers listened to him. So Jacob's brothers are working out in a field. Joseph comes out to them. They strip him of his robe and throw him into a pit. And then they see some slave traders come by and they sell him into slavery. And then they didn't know what to do, so they could hide this evil act that they had done. So they took Joseph's robe and dipped it in a goat's blood and showed it to their father to fake Joseph's death. Now, I've had to forgive people of some difficult things before, but I've never had anybody be this cruel to me. But you guys know the ending of the story. Joseph ends up forgiving his brothers. When Jacob, their father, dies, the brothers get scared and think that Joseph is going to change his mind and seek revenge on them. They know that the forgiveness that Joseph gave, they actually never deserved, and so they're scared that he's going to turn his back and seek revenge against them. So let's read about that later in Genesis chapter 50, verse 15. It says, When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him. So they sent a message to Joseph saying, Your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, Please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. And now, please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also came and fell down before him and said, Behold, we are your servants. But Joseph said to them, Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. So Joseph realized that God's big plan was more important than the temporary hard circumstances in his own life. He realized that the evil intent, the evil meaning of his brothers against him, that God actually meant it for good, and he used it to save people all over the land. Joseph realized this so much that he was even able to comfort his brothers when they came to him and were afraid of him. See, Joseph had many reasons to be angry and to be bitter, but Joseph chose forgiveness instead of bitterness. Now, many years after Joseph forgave his brothers, Jesus, the one who we follow, preached a sermon about forgiveness to his disciples. And I just wanted to read to you 2 quick verses about what Jesus said to them. This comes from Matthew 18:21. It says, "Then Peter came up and said to him, 'Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times?' Jesus said to him, 'I do not say to you 7 times, but 77 times. In other translations, it might say 70 times 7, or if you think of 77, it could be 70 repetitions of 7 times. So that would be 490 times. Now imagine your sibling does that one thing that really bothers you and hurts you, and you forgive them. And then the next day they do it again. I might get a little more annoyed. And then the third day it would be really hard to forgive them, but after 490 days, that's what Jesus is saying. We should always forgive. And why is that? Jesus mentions in a parable directly after these 2 verses. Jesus goes on to talk about this servant who was forgiven this great debt by his master that he could never pay back. It was such a big debt, it would have been impossible to pay back. Then the servant goes free, and when somebody who owes him a little bit of money asks him for patience and forgiveness, the servant won't forgive him and throws him in jail. God says that's a wicked servant. And what he's trying to say here is that because God has forgiven us this great debt of sin that we could never pay back, we should forgive each other. See, Joseph's forgiveness to his brothers isn't normal. It's not typical or something that comes to us normally. It seems hard to understand that he could forgive and comfort his brothers who were so cruel to him. But this forgiveness points forward to the ultimate forgiveness that Jesus, who is God's Son, showed to us. You see, the Son of God came to earth to pay for all of the sins that we've committed, that we could never pay back. He took the punishment and death that we deserve upon himself on the cross. And now that he's risen, he comforts us in our trials. He loves us more than anyone, and he makes us a part of God's family, even though we don't deserve it. We're made a new creation and given a place with God forever in heaven when we put our trust in Jesus. That's the most amazing message I could ever think of, the most amazing message I've ever heard. So in this series, we've mentioned if we want to do atypical things, we might have to be the first one in our families to do something atypical. We have great examples from Joseph and Jesus and the teachings of Jesus. So when someone hurts us in our family, it's easy to respond with bitterness and look for revenge. Like Joseph, we can do the atypical thing and show them forgiveness and kindness and compassion. We can be an example and show how not so typical families forgive each other. Now I want to give you one quick activity that I think you can do that will be helpful to you and your families, centered around this topic of forgiveness. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to identify someone in your family that you need to forgive. Write their name down on a piece of paper, a little card, and pray for them as you do it. Next, I want you to think about why you want to forgive them. Are you tired of feeling bitterness? Are you scared that you're going to lose your relationship with them? Or do you just simply want to obey Jesus in what you're doing and forgive those who you need to forgive? Whatever it is, I want you to write that down too underneath their name. Now I want you to hang on to this card and let it be a reminder of that person that you want to forgive and why you want to forgive them. You see, forgiveness is a process, and sometimes it can be hard and it can take a while, but if we remind ourselves of the reasons that we want to forgive others and the reasons why we need to forgive others, God can help us through that. I especially think it's important that you pray for them too and remind yourself of the love and the care that you actually have for that person. So forgiveness is something that we give to others, but it helps us too. When we don't forgive, we become bitter and angry and closed off. But when we forgive, we can find hope, healing, and freedom. We've talked about a lot of tough things over the past few weeks. But that's because our imperfect families can sometimes be difficult. that doesn't mean we should lose hope. We've seen plenty of examples of families over the last few weeks who were atypical despite their imperfections. They were used by God despite their imperfections. So it's not our job to fix our imperfect families, but if we do want our families to be atypical, we might be the first ones to take the first step. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pray for your family. I want you to have tough conversations with your family and forgive your family. When it comes to your family, don't be typical. Thanks, guys. I'm going to pray for you real quick, and then we'll move on. God, thank you so much for giving us this time to meet, to hear your word and dwell on it. God, help us to obey you because we love you, and show us how much you have loved us first. God, be with these students. Help them to love their families. God, help them to forgive their families and to be forgiven. God, so that we can be a picture of the church that you've given to us. God, we're so thankful for every day that we're alive and every breath we get to take. God, be with us and make us to act more like Jesus. And I ask these things in his name. Amen. Thanks, guys.
Hopefully you guys, I think it's so important. I think if there's one story in the entire Bible that talks about forgiveness of family, Joseph's story is that story. I mean, think about it. I don't know about any of you guys, but have any of you ever had to forgive your family for like trying to murder you, throw you into a hole and try and sell you to slavery? Crickets. Yeah, no, none of us have. And yet Joseph could forgive them in the same way that we can forgive our family for so many things that they do to us. Awesome word, Tim. Make sure you guys give him some love in the chat. But we are going to head over to small groups here right now. So go ahead and hop over from YouTube over to Zoom. We're going to have some small groups. And I will see some of you tomorrow for Gaming with Ty. And then if not, I will see you guys next week, Wednesday, for a new week of CBC Students Live Wednesday night edition. See ya.